The episode of Monday Night Raw this week kicked off in a pretty bizarre way with the Usos coming out to start the show, which felt odd considering how things had played out recently. Just last week, or maybe the week before, Jimmy was telling Jay that he needed to enter one of the qualifiers, win the Elimination Chamber match, and earn his way back to challenging for the World Championship at WrestleMania. That seemed like a clear direction for them, building towards something big. But now here they were, suddenly shifting into tag team mode without much explanation or follow-through on that earlier push. It made the opening feel disjointed, like the creative team had changed their minds midstream or just decided to pivot for the sake of immediate entertainment. I have to say, I'm really over all the hate directed at Jay Uso. That guy is genuinely fun to watch every single time he's out there. His energy, his charisma, the way he connects with the crowd, it's all super entertaining. I won't entertain the criticism anymore. If anyone wants to argue about it, feel free to come at me directly because I'm fully on the Jay Uso train. He's bringing joy to the product, and that's something we need more of in wrestling. The show then transitioned into what felt like a chaotic opening segment. The Usos barely got a chance to speak before they were interrupted by the Vision, Logan Paul, Austin Theory, Bronson Reed, and their manager Paul Heyman. It was funny in a ridiculous way when Jay had this green t-shirt wrapped around his head like some kind of impromptu bandana or prop. Out of context, it made zero sense and was just pure comedy gold. Logan Paul jumped in and started bragging about selling a Pokemon card for something like $162 million. I gave that a down because it felt like he took what used to be a cool, niche hobby and turned it into this over-the-top, mainstream spectacle that kind of ruined the fun for a lot of people. If you know the reference, you get it. If not, no worries, but it just came across as self-aggrandizing. Paul Heyman and the Vision were furious about what happened last week, where Austin Theory lost his spot in the Elimination Chamber thanks to interference from a mysterious masked man. They wanted revenge, and Adam Pearce came out to try and calm things down. He told them to handle it professionally backstage instead of acting like kids. Austin Theory refused, insisting they settle it right then. Pearce pointed out that the Vision was partly to blame because their constant ringside antics distracted security, who were busy dealing with Bronson Reed and Logan Paul instead of handling the masked man properly. I have to give Pearce credit here. He called him out accurately, even if we all know wrestling security is basically useless most of the time. Heyman demanded that Bronson Reed be added to the Elimination Chamber. Pearce, clearly aware that Heyman had gone over his head already, said Reed could qualify next week instead. There are so many mysteries floating around Raw right now. The masked man, the person on the other end of that phone call that brought Bron Breakker back from suspension weeks ago, and Heyman claimed it wasn't Triple H but someone even bigger. We still have no answers, and it's starting to drag. I joked that maybe it was Santa Claus, because who says no to Santa? But seriously, WWE needs to start resolving these or risk losing momentum. Then LA Knight interrupted, clearly thinking the segment had gone on too long. He was still fired up about the Vision for what they did to him, crushing him on a car, which isn't the title of my hypothetical children's book. He called Logan Paul a broccoli, which was a weird but hilarious insult. If you had broccoli hair, would that count as part of your 5-a-day veggie intake? Knight suggested a 6-man tag match since everyone was in the ring anyway. Adam Pearce loved it because apparently nothing was booked yet. The music hit, and we went straight into the match. Wrestling can be so gloriously stupid sometimes, and that's part of why I love it. The 6-man tag was actually pretty good, though LA Knight took a beating, especially from Bronson Reed. It ended with a Vision winning after Logan Paul used his loaded right hand, and Reed hit the tsunami on Jimmy Uso for the pin. It felt like this was setting up the Vision going after the Raw Tag Team titles, which the division desperately needs because it's been dead for a while. After the match, Logan Paul was yelling at commentary when the masked man appeared again, stomping his head into the announce table before running off. Given how the masked man has targeted everyone in the Vision, my guess is it's building toward Seth Rollins revealing himself eventually. Not every mystery needs a huge swerve. Sometimes straightforward works best. I'm a bit worried about LA Knight's direction heading into WrestleMania. His follow-up from Bronson Reed beating Roman Reigns hasn't been strong, and now Logan Paul seems positioned as a leader of that group, which I wouldn't have done. Overall, though, the opening was chaotic but entertaining enough for an up from me. The Usos standing around for 25 minutes doing nothing was hilariously bad booking, but it still worked in a weird way. Later, we got our third big mystery of the night. First a phone call guy, then the masked man, and now a mysterious box delivered backstage. No air holes, so if there's a person in there, they are probably not doing great. Adam Pearce wasn't interested and tried to redirect it to SmackDown, but the label read "Do not open until the Elimination Chamber." I did some silly detective work, words like deliver ending in O, open with OPEN, and jokingly predicted Repo Man because Elimination Chamber is in Chicago, a city known for big debut pops, and maybe tying into old gimmicks or lists. But more realistically, with the date being February 28th and some European tours wrapping up around then, I thought it could be Chris Jericho returning for a big pop. He deserves it, and it would be a feel-good moment instead of more negativity. WWE, please solve these mysteries quickly and make sure no one dies in a box. We then had El Grande Americano No. 2 upset because he thought he deserved an IC title shot, but was booked in a qualifier against Penta instead. Adam Pearce shut that down. No shortcuts. That match happened later, but first came the women's qualifier, Nat Tai versus Bayley versus Asuka. Asuka won by making Bayley tap to the Asuka lock after some back and forth, including Nat Tai hitting a powerbomb that commentators acted like was brand new, even though we see it weekly. Bayley broke up submissions and hit her finisher, but Asuka pulled it out. I was thrilled. Asuka is one of the best ever, and this felt like justice. Bayley could still get redemption, maybe winning the women's tag titles with someone like Lyra at WrestleMania to give her a warm, fuzzy moment. Nat Tai seemed stuck in limbo, though Maxine Dupri attacked her after, turning heelish. Solid match. Up for me. Adam Pearce was then trying to sign someone with a killer contract, mentioning he needed to talk to SmackDown's Nick Aldis too. Rusev walked in wearing a Rusev Day shirt. Nostalgia hit hard. If WWE has a plan here, execute it properly. Oba Femi versus Rusev could be a fun big man clash, and Oba needs to rack up titles by year's end. Down for now on some absences like Rey Mysterio's son or others not being used well, but excited for potential. Liv Morgan had a sit-down with Michael Cole. It started as earlier today, but we saw her prepping live, minor production glitch. Dom interrupted rudely. Liv said she was taking her time deciding. Then Stephanie Baker walked in speaking Spanish. Dom translated the insults in real time. Brutal stuff about Liv's brownies being trash, her grandma's bad restaurant experience, even drinking tears. Liv cried, which was unexpected but human. It hinted she'd pick Stephanie, but the ambiguity in Dom's trash talk made it intriguing. Up for the peculiarity and character work. CM Punk came out to a big pop, excited about the fans, but noting backstage heat for risking the WrestleMania main event by facing Finn Balor. He compared it to sports teams playing regular games after qualifying. He was mad Finn ruined his last match with AJ Styles. Finn interrupted with Dom and returning JD McDonough. Finn claimed is the best global experience, beating Roman on debut. Punk ragged on Judgment Day dragging Finn down, calling JD bobblehead. Punk dared them to jump him. Finn held back for a fair fight. This built beautifully toward Judgment Day imploding. Finn going babyface. Maybe winning IC at Mania. Real, heated, up. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky were interviewed about challenges for their tag titles. Asuka and Kairi interrupted, saying Asuka's in the chamber so they get nothing. Down because of Royal Rumble fallout with Asuka, Kairi hasn't escalated as hoped. Penta versus El Grande Americano No. 2 for IC contendership. Masks ripped attempts, interference from other Americanos. Penta won with Mexican Destroyer. Entertaining chaos despite not making sense. Up, backstage, Judgment Day tension. JD wanted to jump Punk early. Finn refused and walked off. Dom felt left out, setting up a trail. New Day without Xavier Woods, shoulder injury. Sad, hope is okay. The heel turn follow-up has been weak. AJ Lee and Becky Lynch segment. AJ talk legacy, Divas title, opening doors, wanting more than one and done. Becky accused her of excuses, retirement bout threats. AJ turned back like Punk. Becky refused cheap shot. Heat was there, but it didn't excite me more for the match. Long build-up since 2005 vibes, but stretched too thin. Down. With caveat, both are great, just not clicking yet. More Pearce of Vision arguing. Bronson vowed to find Masked Man. Advert for next week's AJ Styles tribute. Deserved. J. Von Evans versus Dominic versus Gunter qualifier. Fun chaos. Chops. Sleeper. For Splash Miss, Dragon Lee Bell shot on Gunther, payback. J-Von OG cutter on Dom for win. J-Von MVP potential. Up. Overall, Raw was ridiculous but entertaining. Mysteries drag, but moments like Dom translations and qualifiers popped. Up for the show. What did you think? The episode of Monday Night Raw this week opened in a way that immediately felt off-kilter and left a lot of viewers, myself included, scratching their heads. The Usos, Jimmy and Jay, made their entrance to kick off the show, which on paper sounds like a solid way to get the crowd energized right away. But the context from recent weeks made it strange. Only a short time ago, either last week or the week before, Jimmy had been adamant with Jay, pushing him to step into one of the upcoming qualifiers, fight through the Elimination Chamber gauntlet, come out victorious, and reclaim his path to the World Championship at WrestleMania. That conversation carried weight. It felt like a genuine brotherly pep talk with real stakes attached. It positioned Jay as someone hungry to prove himself on the grandest stage again, rebuilding momentum after everything the Bloodline saga had put him through. So to see them suddenly appear without any reference to that storyline, without addressing the qualifier push, and instead just sort of existing in the ring as a tag team unit again was jarring. It gave the impression that creative either scrapped the plan overnight or decided the long-term arc could wait while they squeezed in some immediate tag team drama. Either way, it undercut the seriousness of what had been said previously. And while we're on the subject of Jay Uso, I need to get this off my chest because I'm genuinely tired of hearing the constant negativity aimed his way. Jay is one of the most consistently enjoyable performers on the roster right now. His in-ring work has sharpened dramatically over the past couple of years. His facials and mannerisms sell every moment perfectly, and his connection with live crowds is undeniable. Whether it's hitting the Uso splash, delivering those rapid-fire super kicks, or just hyping the audience with his signature yeet energy, he brings a level of fun and authenticity that wrestling desperately needs. The complaints about him being overexposed or not main event material feel unfair when you consider how much he's grown as a solo act while still honoring his tag roots. I'm fully aboard the Jay Uso train, and if anyone wants to debate it, bring the heat my way directly because I will defend him without hesitation. The guy is super duper fun, and that's not changing. Before the Usos could even get a sentence out, the segment was hijacked by the Vision, Logan Paul leading the charge with Austin Theory, Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman in tow. The interruption itself wasn't surprising given the bad blood, but what made it absurdly hilarious was Jay standing there with a bright green t-shirt wrapped around his head like some kind of makeshift pirate bandana or a kid playing dress-up. Out of any logical context, it looked ridiculous, and that's exactly why it worked as unintentional comedy. The camera caught it perfectly, and you could almost see the confusion on everyone's faces, including the Usos themselves, as if they were wondering why they were even booked to be there. Logan Paul immediately launched into his promo, bragging about flipping a rare Pokemon card for an eye-watering $162 million, or whatever the exact figure was. I lost track because the number sounded so cartoonishly large. That whole tangent earned a firm down from me. Collecting cards used to be a genuine, passionate hobby for a lot of people, something personal, nostalgic, and relatively untouched by mainstream hype. Logan turning it into this ultra-publicized flex felt like he took something wholesome and dropped a nuke on it, turning it into just another status symbol for clout. If you're deep into the hobby, you know exactly why it stings. If you're not, it probably just came across as him being Logan Paul, which is its own kind of exhausting. Paul Heyman, ever the master manipulator, was seething about the events of last week. Austin Theory's guaranteed spot in the Elimination Chamber had been stolen thanks to the interference of the still unidentified masked man. The group wanted immediate payback, and tensions boiled over quickly. Adam Pearce eventually stepped in, doing his best impression of a beleaguered principal trying to break up a schoolyard fight. He urged everyone to take it backstage, handle it like adults, and sort the mess professionally. Theory, predictably, wasn't having it. He demanded action right then and there. Pearce fired back, reminding them that their constant ringside meddling was part of the problem. Security couldn't do their job properly because they were too busy corralling Bronson Reed and Logan Paul during previous attacks. It was a rare moment where Pearce actually made sense and called out the hypocrisy without mincing words. That said, let's be real, WWE security guards have been portrayed as comically ineffective for decades. They are basically there to look official while getting tossed aside like ragdolls. So while Pierce had a point, the delivery carried an undercurrent of irony we all felt. Heyman, refusing to back down, demanded Bronson Reed be inserted directly into the Elimination Chamber lineup. Pierce, clearly exhausted by the backstage politics he can't control, revealed that he already knew Heyman had gone above his head to someone higher up. Instead of caving completely, he compromised. Reed would have to earn his spot in a qualifier match the following week. At this point in the night, Raw was already swimming in unresolved mysteries. We still don't know who was on the other end of that cryptic phone call that mysteriously lifted Braun Breaker's suspension weeks earlier. Heyman had teased in an earlier interview that it wasn't Triple H, it was someone even more powerful. The longer these threads dangle without payoff, the more they risk turning from intriguing to frustrating. I half-joked that maybe Santa Claus made the call. Who turns down a request from the big man in red? But in seriousness, WWE needs to start closing these loops before the audience tunes out. The segment refused to die there. LA Knight stormed in, clearly fed up with how long everything was taking. He was still carrying a grudge against the Vision for the car crush spot from weeks prior. Side note, if I ever write a children's book called Crushed on a Car, that's the title locked in. In the heat of the moment, Knight called Logan Paul a broccoli, which might be one of the strangest insults I've heard in wrestling. It was so random it looped back around to being funny. Imagine someone with actual broccoli florets for hair. Would that technically count toward your daily vegetable intake? The visual alone cracked me up. Knight then threw out the idea that since literally everyone was already in the ring arguing, why not make it official and turn it into a six-man tag match? Adam Pearce, who apparently hadn't bothered to book anything substantial for the first half hour of television, jumped at the suggestion. The babyface's music hit out of nowhere, and we rolled straight into a match without any real build-up. That's peak pro wrestling stupidity, and honestly, I love it for that reason alone. The six-man tag itself delivered solid action despite the haphazard setup. LA Knight ate a ton of punishment, especially from a monstrous Bronson Reed, who looked like he was trying to fold him in half with every slam. The finish came when Logan Paul softened Jimmy Uso with his brass-knuckle-assisted right hand. Still don't know what they're officially calling that weapon. Followed by Reed crashing down with a tsunami for the pin. The Vision stood tall, and the loss of the babyface trio felt like another step toward positioning the Vision as challengers for the Raw Tag Team Championships. That division has been on life support for far too long. Barely any meaningful feuds, no real depth beyond a couple of teams. So anything that injects life into it is welcome. Post-match, Logan Paul was still joining at the commentary team when the masked man struck again. He appeared out of nowhere, drove Logan's head into the announce table with vicious force, then bolted before anyone could react. This is now the third or fourth time the masked man has targeted someone in the Vision specifically. The pattern is clear. This isn't random chaos. My working theory remains that this is all building to a Seth Rollins return and reveal. The timeline fits. The personal grudges align, and sometimes the simplest explanation is the most satisfying. Not every swerve needs to be mind-blowing. A well-executed payoff to a slow burn can hit just as hard. I'm starting to worry about LA Knight's overall trajectory heading toward WrestleMania. Ever since Bronson Reed scored that massive upset over Roman Reigns, Knight's follow-up booking has felt directionless. And now, with Logan Paul seemingly positioned as a de facto leader of the Vision, it makes Knight's role in the group feel diminished. I wouldn't have booked it that way. Paul is a star, but Knight has been building serious momentum as a singles act. Still, despite all the chaos and loose ends, the opening segment delivered enough ridiculous entertainment to earn an up from me. Watching the Usos stand around awkwardly for nearly half an hour while everyone else argued was hilariously disrespectful to them, but the absurdity of it all somehow worked. The mysteries didn't stop there. We got our third major unanswered question of the night when a large, unmarked box was delivered backstage. No air holes, which immediately raised the question, if there's a human being inside, are they okay? Adam Pearce took one look at it, heard it was addressed to WWE, and tried to punt responsibility to SmackDown. But the label was unmistakable. Do not open until the Elimination Chamber. That phrase alone turned it into another ticking time bomb. I went full detective mode for fun, picked apart words like deliver, ends in O, open, contains OPEN, and jokingly landed on Repo Man as a reveal because Elimination Chamber is in Chicago, a city famous for huge pops on surprise returns or debuts. Maybe the delivery guy had a clipboard that looked suspiciously like a wanted poster list. But if I'm being more realistic, the timing lines up perfectly for a Chris Jericho return. His current commitments with AEW's international tours wrap up just before February 28th. A massive Chicago pop for Y2J would be electric, and it would inject some positivity into a show that's been heavy on unresolved tension. Whatever it is, WWE has to stop piling on mysteries and start delivering answers soon. And please, for the love of everything, make sure nobody suffocates in that box. We shifted gears to another backstage argument, this time involving El Grande Americano No. 2 throwing a fit because he believed he deserved a direct shot at the Intercontinental Championship. Adam Pearce, staying consistent as a voice of reason, told him no, everyone has to earn their opportunities. That led to a qualifier later in the night against Penta El Zero Miedo. Before that, though, we got the Women's Elimination Chamber qualifier, Natalya versus Bayley versus Asuka. This one had a lot of personal stakes baked in. Asuka has been on a tear lately, looking like the dominant force she always should be. Bayley continues to fight for relevance after years of being underutilized despite her talent. Natalya brought her technical game and that new aggressive edge she's been showing. The match told a clear story. Natalya hit a picture-perfect powerbomb, and the commentators sold it like they'd never seen such a move before, which was comical considering how often we see powerbombs on weekly television. Bayley played the opportunistic babyface, breaking up submissions and hitting her belly-to-belly suplex for a near fall. But Asuka stayed one step ahead. After Bayley knocked Natalya to the floor to stop her from interfering, Asuka locked in the Asuka lock. Bayley fought valiantly but eventually tapped. Asuka advanced to the chamber, and I was genuinely thrilled. She's one of the greatest in-ring performers WWE has ever employed. Her striking, her submissions, her aura are all elite. This win felt like long overdue recognition. Bayley can still find her way to WrestleMania gold, perhaps by capturing the women's tag titles alongside someone like Lyra Valkyria. That would be a satisfying, feel-good payoff for her. Natalya, unfortunately, seemed stuck in no man's land again, though Maxine Dupri attacking her afterward hinted at a heel turn that could give her direction. Overall, a strong, competitive match that earned an up. Adam Pearce was back at his desk, this time trying to close a big contract deal with someone off-screen. He mentioned needing to coordinate with SmackDown GM Nick Aldis, which immediately set off alarm bells that a cross-brand move might be coming. Then Rusev, Moreau, if we're using his real name, walked in wearing a vintage Rusev Day shirt. The nostalgia hit like a truck. Rusev Day was one of the most organic, crowd-driven movements of the 2010s, and seeing that shirt again stirred up a lot of feelings. If WWE is bringing him back with an actual plan, they need to execute it flawlessly. Pairing him against Obafemi in a big man collision would be a dream match. Two powerhouses slapping meat for 10 minutes straight. Oba need to collect every title possible by the end of 2026, and a program with Rusev could accelerate that. For now, though, it's just teasers, so I'll hold off on a full verdict. Liv Morgan sat down for a tense interview with Michael Cole. There was a small continuity glitch. We saw her getting ready live earlier, but Cole introduced it as earlier today. Minor production hiccup, but noticeable. Dom Mysterio barged in uninvited, and Cole shut him down immediately with a sharp, "Nobody invited you." Liv explained she was still weighing her options and refused to rush a decision after years of grinding. Then Stephanie Vega entered the frame and started speaking rapid-fire Spanish. Liv couldn't understand a word, but Dom leaned in and whispered vicious translations in real time. The insults were savage, mocking Liv's failed brownie attempt where everyone secretly threw them away, claiming Stephanie took Liv's grandma to a terrible restaurant that made her cry, then drank those tears from a cup and now believes she's a new grandma despite zero family connection. Dom kept adding his own commentary, embarrassment, failure, until Liv's eyes welled up and she started crying. It was an unexpectedly emotional beat. Stephanie stormed off after delivering her piece, which basically amounted to, "You've been given everything and you still suck. Look at what I've accomplished." The segment left things ambiguous enough to keep viewers guessing. Will Liv ultimately align with Stephanie? The mind games, Dom's heelish glee, and Liv's genuine tears made it compelling television. Up, with bonus points of being different and risky. We weren't done with promo-heavy segments yet. CM Punk's music hit to a massive ovation. He acknowledged the love from the fans, but made it clear that management isn't thrilled with him because challenging Finn Balor puts the WrestleMania main event at risk. Punk dropped a sharp sports analogy. Even after qualifying for the playoffs, teams still play their regular season games. It was a subtle dig at Finn being just another opponent. He was still furious that Finn cost him what might have been his final match with AJ Styles, and he wanted payback. Finn Balor emerged with Dominic Mysterio and a returning JD McDonough, surrounding the ring like a modern-day Shield setup. Finn fired back hard. He reminded everyone of his credentials, international success in Japan, Europe, Mexico, and that unforgettable night he debuted on Raw and beat Roman Reigns clean. He argued that he's the real best in the world, not Punk, not Reigns. Punk didn't hold back either. He accused Judgment Day of dragging Finn down instead of elevating him. He mocked Dom for carrying 2 belts but defending neither, called JD a bobblehead who struggles to get into the ring because of his giant head, and dared them to jump him. Finn refused, insisting he beat Punk on his own merit. The tension felt real, the promos crackled with history, and it reinforced my belief that this feud is a stepping stone to bigger things. Judgment Day fracturing, Finn turning babyface again, possibly winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania in a feel-good moment. Up for the authenticity and long-term potential. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky were interviewed about their women's tag title reign when Asuka and Kairi Sane interrupted. Asuka gloated about qualifying for the Chamber, essentially telling them they get nothing. The heat was there, but the follow-up from Asuka and Kairi's Royal Rumble angle hasn't escalated the way I hoped. It felt like a missed opportunity to turn vicious. Down for that reason. Later, Penta El Zero Miedo faced El Grande Americano No. 2 in the IC title contender qualifier. The match descended into glorious lunacy, multiple Americanos interfering, attempts to unmask Penta, mask swaps under the ring. Penta eventually hit the Mexican Destroyer for the win, earning his shot. The post-match brawl between the original Grande Americano and No. 2 suggested their WrestleMania program is still alive. Even though the storyline is cartoonish and the commentators played up the "we have no idea who these people are" gag, it entertained me week after week. Sometimes wrestling doesn't need A-tight logic, it just needs to be fun. Backstage, Judgment Day tension boiled over again. JD pushed Finn to jump Punk early for strategic advantage. Finn walked away, refusing to cheat. Dom looked visibly hurt at being left behind, planting seeds of betrayal down the line. The New Day appeared without Xavier Woods. Kofi Kingston explained that Xavier is sidelined with a shoulder injury and won't be cleared anytime soon. That news genuinely sucks. Xavier is one of the nicest guys in the business and a huge asset to any show. The New Day heel turn from months ago was one of the best in recent memory, but the follow-up has been underwhelming. They feel directionless now, and that's disappointing. AJ Lee and Becky Lynch had a serious face-to-face. AJ spoke passionately about her past as Divas champion, how that reign helped pave the way for the current women's division, and how she wants more than a nostalgia run. She wants to face Bayley, Lyra, Rhea, everyone. Becky accused her of using excuses and claimed AJ only wants the Elimination Chamber match because it could be her retirement bout in Chicago. AJ got vicious, saying Becky had a 10-year head start and still couldn't catch up. Becky threatened to send AJ out of Chicago in a hearse. AJ turned her back at CM Punk, daring Becky to hit her. Becky refused, saying she wanted a clean win at the Chamber. The heat was real. The crowd was into it. But personally, the feud still isn't clicking for me. It started way back in late 2025, and 6 months of build-up feels stretched thin. Both women are phenomenal, so the match will probably deliver. But right now it's a down, with a caveat that it's more not for me than outright bad. More arguing between Pierce and the Vision. Bronson Reed vowed to hunt down the masked man himself. Next week's Raw will feature a big tribute ceremony for AJ Styles, which is long overdue. The guy is a legend and deserves every bit of recognition. The main event qualifier saw J. Von Evans take on Dominic Mysterio and Gunther. This match was pure joy. J. Von bounced around like a human pinball, hitting cutters and flips, only to get caught midair repeatedly. Gunther locked in a sleeper. Dom tried to interfere with a frog splash but missed. Dragon Lee returned the favor from weeks ago by clocking Gunther with the ring bell. Dom went for another splash and whiffed. J. Von nailed the OG cutter on Dom for the upset win. J. Von continues to shine, is unapologetically himself, goofy yet talented, and is racking up credibility fast. Beating Dom and indirectly standing tall over Gunther gives him huge momentum. Up, and he needs to be protected moving forward. Raw ended on a high note despite its ridiculous moments. The mysteries are piling up, but segments like Dom translating insults and Jay Yvonne's victory provided real entertainment. Overall, an up. The product feels like it's building towards something big once we clear Elimination Chamber and get clearer WrestleMania lines. What did you think of the show?